be your go-to guy. I give you Toastmaster Jeff Hood.
Well, it all started about 2 hours north of here along the banks of the St. Johns River, about 30 miles south of Jacksonville. A little place called Switzerland, where the river is 3 miles wide and the pine forests are as far as you can see. And as a kid, I felt like an adventurous Huck Finn. If it was done outdoors, I did it. Now, speaking of adventurous, this past Saturday, Julie and I attended our granddaughter Addison's 13th birthday party. Did I mention it was a roller skating party? Well, you see, I just couldn't watch those kids skating without me, so guess what I did? I put me on some of those skates, and out on that floor I went. All was good till I was holding Addison's hand, and then she lost her balance. I tried to hold her up like any parent would do to their children, and down we both went. Well, I'll tell you, as you get older, your brain remembers a lot of things that you used to know how to do. But your body just may not. So make no mistake, you got to keep those two together. I have a cast on my arm now for the next 6 weeks, and my granddaughter Addison has a coolest story to share the rest of her life. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests, and the most honorable head table. So what do you say we get back to that Switzerland river rat? Imagine this for a moment. In my teenage years, here I am with my very first boat. That boat cost me $400 and it didn't even run. Now what do you suppose was wrong with that plan? By now you might be wondering, what is a teenage kid going to do with a broken boat? Well, you see, a man named Brady Wilford was very special to me. He was my grandfather. And when I was just a little fella, he and my grandmother adopted me. And that was when my granddad became my dad. My mom, my uncles, my aunts, they all called him Daddy, and so did I. Where he went, I went. What he did, I did. We were like two buds in a bucket. Together we took care of the horses, the cows, the hunting dogs. If it was outside, we did it. If it was broken, he taught me how to fix it. He taught me how to hunt, fish, camp, cook in the woods, and best of all, how to be good to people. I'll never forget one day when I was a teenager, I talked Daddy into letting me go to work for him during the summers. He had his own business back then. It was called Wilford's Service Center. This was a local service station. They called them service station back in those days. Some of you might remember that. Back then, as you pulled up to the gas pump, the bell would ring, someone would hustle out, pump your gas, check your tires, clean your windshield, and might even vacuum your car if you wanted to. Now, one of the many special times that I remember, Daddy and I would go to the corner drugstore for lunch. For me, it was a hamburger and a vanilla milkshake. Now, show of hands. How many of y'all ever been to the corner drugstore and had one of those homemade milkshakes? Now, for those of you who haven't, if you're ever out in the country and come across one of those country stores that serves hamburgers and milkshakes, homemade milkshakes, you got to just stop in and get you one. Now, back at the service station, we provided lots of services to our community. We sold the gas, we worked on the cars, we had a body shop, sold and financed cars. We even sold and delivered fuel oil to keep the local families warm in the wintertime. Daddy was also the fire chief and the constable. And if you didn't know what a constable was like being a fire chief back in those, being a police chief back in those days. You could say he was like the mayor of our little town. If you needed something, my dad, he was the man to go see. My dad, he was smart, dedicated, and very determined in those days. He was very much a family man too, a man of honesty, integrity, honor, and was respected by everyone. He would always say to me, Jeff, a man's word is his bond. Do what you say you're going to do. And I will tell you, I live by this to this day. Now, remember that boat that didn't run? Well, there was this one afternoon when I was working on the motor. Daddy came up to me. He said, Jeff, what are you going to do about this boat that won't run? I said, Daddy, I have two motors. I have one with the top half that works and the other with the bottom half that works. Guess what I did? Now, I don't know how much you know about outboard motors, but let me tell you this. The chances of taking two completely outboard motors from two completely different manufacturers and putting them together and making one can be just a little bit challenging. It's like putting a Ford engine in a Chevy and hoping it works. Did I mention that I inherited some of my dad's mechanicalness and determination? Well, let me tell you, those motors, it took a little while, but I did make them work. And would you believe it? My dad, his face, when I got those motors running, the word priceless is what came to my mind. And that is what we call a good day of voting. Now, a little bit about me and my work life. I've been very fortunate over the years, and as you know, in my teenage years, I worked in my dad's business. In high school, one time, I started working at a really nice steak and seafood restaurant in a marina on the water. I started out as a busboy, then the dishwasher, then I moved to the commissary. Commissary is where we would do meal prep throughout the day, getting ready for the evening meals. And then I was promoted to the kitchen. Yep, I was now a cook. One day I went to work, the GM comes up to me and says, Jeff, I'm promoting you to the head chef. I said, really? Why is that? He said, because everybody else has quit and you're the only one left. You just can't make that stuff up. My businesses have ranged from automotive to boats to insurance and now to contracting. 10 years ago, I started a contracting company that is now JTO Roofing and Solar, located in Sanford. I have 4 awesome, energetic, adventurous children that I love dearly, and I will tell you, I have lots more stories to share, and I promise you in the future I will. But for now, I can honestly say, if it hadn't been for my dad taking me under the wings at such a young age, demonstrating everyday examples of unconditional love for his children, teaching me business, and above all, teaching me how to treat people, I probably wouldn't be standing here in front of you today. So I'll close with this. My dad went to heaven 13 years ago, and because of Toastmasters, I have had the grand pleasure to stand in front of a church packed to the brim with family and friends and give the most heartfelt tribute to my dad, Brady Wilford, fellow Toastmaster.